All right, we are back for our anniversary special. Today is Honey Baby and I's anniversary. So I'm going to whip us up something really fast that is absolutely delicious. You're going to see how quick this comes together. I've got some water that's boiling. It's not really boiling, but it's close enough. I'm not going to sit here and wait for water to boil. So I was thinking there might be 3 of us, but there's only 2. And what the heck? I'll just do the whole thing. So I'm just using a box of gluten-free thin spaghetti. Next I've got, I thought I already started that, but I guess not. I've got a shallot in a skillet that I just finely diced up. So what we're going to do here is we're going to make a really quick shrimp seafood type Alfredo. I've got a little garlic bread going. That's going to make a super big mess because it's really buttery. So it's probably going to smoke the joint up and you won't be able to see a single thing that I'm doing here. Anyway, I'm going to get this shallot just with a little bit of color on it. That's all I'm trying to do. And I'm going to get this pasta going. Let me kind of push this down in here. You see this on all the fancy shows where they do that and then it just goes down in there. Might never work. I've got a bag of shrimp. These are peeled. They're still raw, but they are peeled. And then I've got a can of crab meat. Now this is not like the lump crab. I'm really only using this for a little extra bit of flavor. So I'm going to drain most of the liquid out of that. There's still a little bit in it. I also have a little tomato that I sliced up here, and I'm just going to add that kind of as a garnish over the top because tomato is beautiful and it's going to make this dish look good. You're not going to get a lot of flavor out of it, but doesn't really matter at that point. Then I've got Parmesan, 2 cups of full fat milk. Now, make sure you use half and half full fat, heavy cream, something like that, because you're not going to cook this very long, but it will separate in your skillet if you're not careful. Just making sure it's good. Then what I have is this tiny spoon, which is way undersized for this. I'm going to push my pasta down because it aggravates me when some of it's sticking out. You notice that my shallots are starting to kind of sizzle there. I have some cornstarch. You could just make a slurry, and that would work fine too. I think it's easier if you just mix it in with the milk. Again, take a couple of teaspoons of milk.
Whoa.
Oh, oh my God. Yeah, see, it's so much easier. And then just, it just squirt that all over everything. And then just mix it in. That's a couple of teaspoons for the 2 cups of the milk. Then, after that, you've got to clean up the giant mess that you made with the cream. I didn't know what that lid went to, but whatever. I got an extra lid. So anyway, you clean that up. You just want to saute this this shallot for just a minute. And I'm going to show you how quick this comes together. So I've got the shallot. Now I'm going to come back with some of this garlic paste. Oh, that's what it goes to. Figure that out. There's also the minced garlic. I like the paste better because at the end of it, there's not all the chunks in it. But you are going to have to cook out this raw garlic out of this. So this is going to be about 2 teaspoons of garlic. And again, you have to cook that rawness out of that or it's just going to taste just like raw garlic. So I've got that in there. I've got a little pepper. Fancy little pepper grinder here. And then I got a little salt. You all know me, you've watched enough of these videos. I'm not a heavy salted type of guy. So there's never going to be a lot of salt in there. Your pasta's going. This should take, all told, less than 10 minutes. And make sure you kind of break your pasta up a little bit. This, of course, is gluten-free, so it tends to really want to stick together if you're not careful. All right, so I don't have any other liquid in here other than just a tiny bit of olive oil that I put in there originally to get my shallots going. So all I've done is cook these for whatever that's been, 60 seconds, maybe a minute. I added the garlic. I've cooked it down, and you'll notice that garlic take on a little different smell once it's cooked down. So get my garlic bread on a little bit more. So once that happens, and it's starting to kind of brown up a little, stuck to the bottom, which is fine, because I'm going to deglaze it here in a few. I'm going to add in the shrimp. Now this was 1 pound of shrimp. I didn't butterfly these or any of that. These are just peeled. They still do have some liquid in them because I didn't drain them, which is fine. Every bit of flavor that I can get out of this, I'm going to try and get out of this seafood. Now, normally, if I was doing this, I would just go with the salt and pepper. But since this has got some seafood, I'm going to add a little sprinkle of Old Bay. That's probably half a teaspoon of Old Bay. These shrimp are going to cook super fast. So basically about a minute is all I'm going to cook these shrimp for on each side because the skillet's hot. Now they were kind of a little bit still frozen, so I say that maybe 10% frozen. So we'll take just an extra second or two for these. They'll kind of start turning pink, which they're doing a little bit right now. But then again, I've got the crab meat. I kind of partially drained that. I'm going to go ahead and add it. Usually there's a little paper in there. Maybe I already pulled that out. But I want to do that because I want to cook the liquid off of that as well. The crab meat's already cooked, so it doesn't really need to cook. But again, just for flavor. So I'm adding it in there. Got our pasta going good. Kind of spread all that out. Now here in just a minute, I'll have Sarah bring that over and I'll show you what this looks like. Our pasta's doing good. Now this is thin spaghetti, so you're only going to have about, if you're using thin spaghetti or angel hair, you're only going to literally have 5 minutes or so on that cooking. So you see here, I've got my shrimp. They're starting to turn pink. There's one right there that's done. And then I'll just start flipping these over. The crab meat's in there. Now right now there's too much liquid in that. So you see all the liquid in there. You can see some of the shallots, some of the garlic in there too. But again, there's oh, I'd already flipped that one. There's too much liquid in this. So I'm going to have to let this cook for just a minute. Now, if I was doing this and I was afraid of these shrimp cooking too long, I'd have to drain some of this liquid off. But I think it's going to cook out pretty quick. I'm hoping. That shrimp right there is still a little bit raw, so I'm still good. And as this is going and the shrimp are finally cooking a little, the liquid's cooking out of it too. So, again, I've got my milk or half and half. I'll give it one more. I better put the lid on this time. One more little shake to make sure that cornstarch is stirred up. Because when you do this is going to thicken super fast. That garlic bread probably needs one more, but I'll turn that on in just a second. See more and more liquid coming out of all this. And again, I want to get a lot of that cooked out. So I'll jack this temperature up here just a little bit. Got my pasta going. Some people say add the pasta water. You're not going to need that in this. I've got a little bit of butter here. I'm going to go ahead and toss in a little butter. Tablespoon and a half, something like that. Get my garlic bread on a little bit more. Now this probably will need a little more salt here in just a minute, but you can already smell. It smells delicious. The shrimp are almost cooked. A couple of them still got a little more time, so that's fine. I can move them over to the one side. For some reason this is cooking a little bit hotter. I probably don't have it centered on there very good. It's cooking a little hotter on one side, so but you can start to see how the liquid's being absorbed or evaporated. And I can thicken this. I can thicken this all by but if I put the milk in there right now, it would thicken everything because there's enough cornstarch in it. But I want to cook some of that water off of it, just because I want to concentrate the flavors a little bit more. So again, I added my butter. That added a little. Wow. That added a little bit to it as well. But you'll see some of this will start to cook off. My shrimp are obviously done now. They're all pink. That one's still got a little bit, so that one's got a little. So I'm not too worried about this just yet. Again, if you overcook your shrimp, they suck. They turn into rubber washers. So don't do it. Give them a minute and a half on each side and call it good. So this is kind of cooking down. The other thing I have is Parmesan. I had Parmesan. Oh, here it is. So I want to add a copious amount of Parmesan to this. That's going to be probably half a cup. Because this needs to be extremely Parmesan-y to make good Alfredo. So here we go. That tightened my sauce up a little bit right there. I've got my milk. So what I need to do is I need to turn this temperature way up so that when I add this cold milk to it, it doesn't drop too much. So I come back in here with the milk that has the cornstarch in it. This should start to set up. You can see that crab in there. It'll start to set up along the edges super fast. Now make sure, whenever you're doing pasta like this, make sure you always pull this before it gets too thick, because it'll go from 0 to too thick pretty daggone quick. I want to add a little dash of pepper flakes to this, just for a little spice, not a ton. While that's coming back up to temperature, I'm going to use my spoon that's probably just covered completely in garlic, and that's all I'm going to take. Oh, that's good. It does need a little bit more salt, though. And again, I'm not a big salter, so if you really like salt, you're probably going to add a lot of salt. My pasta, I feel like, is done. So I can turn that off. I'll let that sit there for just a second. My garlic bread is done. Now you'll notice how this starts to set up along the edges here. See how it gets real thick along the edges and it wants to stick to the side of the pan? So what I've got to do now is I got to really keep my eye on this, and I have to keep this moving or else it's going to turn into one big glob and it's going to be a seafood an Alfredo pancake. So if I had some fancy green stuff, now's when I'd be putting that over the top. Double check that for salt. Now again, don't walk away from it at this stage because you're going to really come back to it just being totally set up. That is ridiculous. And if this didn't set up to your consistency, let's say you didn't put enough cornstarch in it, just mix you up a little slurry with a little more milk and add to it. I think this is going to be really nice. You're never going to know how much it's going to thicken until it comes back to a boil. So this is still a little thin, although it's getting there. I think I'm going to be just right. You don't want this super thick. You don't want it super thin either. You want it to stick to your noodles. Oh yeah, see that? That's where we're getting to the consistency, where it's coming back. I turned this skillet up, but I didn't really give it long enough to get super hot before I added it. So that's why it's kind of taking a second for that thickness to develop, because it's finally back to boiling. Whew. Shrimp and crab Alfredo in probably 10 minutes or less.
There it goes.
Have your anniversary taste. Mm-hmm. Okay, you're seeing it now. See how it's all coming together and tightening up?
Yep.
Could add a little butter to that, and I could finish tightening it that way. But I think it's perfect as is. So I'm gonna, now be careful at this stage. If you keep going, you're gonna go too far and you're gonna be past the point of no return. And it's hard to thin a sauce. Way harder to thin a sauce than it is to thicken one. That is exactly where I want it. So I'm going to turn that off, and I'll leave it on the heat just for a minute to kind of finish setting that up. All right, now I'll slide that back so it'll still set up a little bit more as it sets, but it's not going to go too far. So now I'm going to drain the pasta. I'm going to plate the pasta. I'll plate the sauce and the shrimp over that. I'll hit it with a little bit of the tomatoes, a little bit more of the Parmesan over the top, and then we'll take a nice little thumbnail pic to show you the end result. Happy anniversary, honey. This is our anniversary supper.
Happy anniversary. Love you.
Love you too, baby.